All right, welcome back. So we've done a ton of tests and I wanted to clear the air on a couple things. I'm a beginner on all of the CNC stuff and I'm trying to take you on the journey with me. The company that built the Vacudogs, which I think are a genius product, reached out and said these small circles were never meant to be the gasket used as a hold down. So please don't use these as hold downs. Those tests I did just proved that they do not work as hold downs, so don't use them. Also, as a note, in my previous videos, I talked about how these had some indents in them. Those have almost totally gone away, and the company reached out again and said it wouldn't affect anything as a support piece. Now let's talk about the larger gaskets. This is what we should be using, and the most recent test that I did showed that. The hold down for this was incredible. Also, most of the creases, indents really, like small, slight indents, have almost totally gone away. As an added note, the company that built the Vacudog reached out and said, look, if you have a problem with one of the gaskets or something's wrong, reach out to them. They're a great company. They stand behind their product. They also said that this was never tested for the purpose of a CNC, to be used with a CNC. And they told me that before I ever purchased any of them. I totally understand that, but that's what I'm interested in. I'm using them for the purpose of CNC to see if it works. Will it work as a hold down piece? Now, I doubt that it's going to work if you're using an inch end mill or a 2-inch surfacing bit. I seriously doubt it would hold down something like that. The forces are insane, but I'm using anywhere from 1/8 inch to 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch to 5/8 inch bits. Right now, I want to test a 1/4 inch bit. It's probably the most common bit that I use. I'm going to test with a 1/4 inch downcut bit. It's called the Downtown Jenny. Amazing, amazing company. Love their bits. So this bit is a 1/4 inch, as I already said. The depth per pass that I'll be cutting, so how far it cuts down each pass, so think of that as material that I'm fighting, is 3.175 millimeters, and that's by a 1/4 inch. Also, I'm moving at a feed rate of 2450 and an RPM of 16,000. So there's some pretty significant forces that are going to be put on the wood that we'll be cutting today. The wood that we'll be cutting is going to be a little bit thicker than 1/2 inch sheet of plywood. A 1/2 inch sheet of plywood's nominal depth is 12 and like a 1/2 millimeters. This is 13.3 millimeters, and I'm going to be cutting down 12 millimeters, which is almost cutting all the way through a 1/2 inch sheet of plywood. This should tell us, can you use a 1/4 inch bit running at its regular feed rate, at its regular depth of cut? Will it work? All right, so today I'm going to do 2 tests. Well, I hope to do 2 tests. I'm going to do one that's a cut about this big, and then I'm going to do another one that's a cut about this big. And we'll see if the Vacudog can hold. Let's find out. I've set this up exactly as I did last time when we did the last test. You can see I've got the gasket here with the rubber gaskets in the grid lines. That pop you just heard was the mic dropping out in the middle of recording. So apologies for that. All I'm talking about right here is that we're using the circles as supports. And now we're putting the wood on there. Now we're turning on the vacuum pump, making sure it's held down. And now we're pushing just to make sure that it doesn't budge. Everything seems nice and tight. It looks like we're ready to cut. Okay, so a second snafu. It didn't record the first cut, which was awesome. Having all kinds of technical difficulties today. But the first cut went flawlessly. It was perfect. It cut really, really well. The first cut is narrower and not as long as the second cut. Now let's try the second cut. All right, once again, we've got no audio, super good times. But again, you probably don't need to hear the screaming of a CNC cutting through wood. What I'm seeing here, I was nervous because it's farther out this time. It's cutting flawlessly again. Really impressed with how well it's cutting. And then here's where it goes down another, I can't remember what it was, 3.75 or something like that millimeters. Cuts really well again. And steps down again right here. You'll notice that it's doing a little jog in the middle right there. That's because I wanted to see what would happen when it's cutting tabs with that up and down and the movement cause any disruption to the Vacudog. And I'm not seeing any problems with suction. And we're done. Looks like a nice clean cut. And right here, I'm just checking, looking at the cuts myself. They felt really straight. It was a really good cut. Still being held down by the Vacudog. All right, so cut complete. That's amazing. You know, this is solid wood. It's not plywood. This is cedar. It smells amazing. Man, I cannot believe it cut through. Man, it just didn't budge. Like, you can look at the lines. They're so straight. Just awesome. I see no deviation. I didn't see any deviation when it was cutting. Just a really, really great job. Chalk one up as a win for the Vacudogs. I think the next step is going to be, can I do a test where I'm doing a larger cut on a big piece of plywood, cutting out some larger pieces with the Vacudogs strategically placed. Thanks for tuning in. I hope this helps, and I'll talk to you later.